The grandeur of the inauguration ceremony was unmatched. The Capitol steps were adorned with a sea of faces, some jubilant, others contemplative, gathered to witness a moment of history as Donald Trump took the oath of office. Amidst the grandeur, one figure stood out not for his stature, but for his quiet demeanor, Barron Trump, the youngest son of the new president. At just 10 years old, Barron was thrust into the global spotlight. Dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, he looked every bit the image of a composed and confident young man. Yet, as cameras zoomed in on his face, it was evident that he wasn't there to bask in the limelight. His focus and calm presence hinted at something deeper, a maturity beyond his years. As the ceremony progressed, world leaders, dignitaries, and celebrities filled the space with a cacophony of energy. The atmosphere was a mix of anticipation, tension, and excitement. Speeches were made, oaths were taken, and applause thundered through the chilly Washington air. Amid it all, Barron sat quietly, observing. Then came the moment that no one anticipated. After his father delivered his inaugural speech, President Trump, with a proud smile, turned toward his family. Gesturing toward Barron, he said, "My youngest son has a few words he'd like to share." The room fell silent. The crowd, the media, even the most boisterous of attendees, all turned their attention to the young boy walking up to the podium. Whispers of surprise rippled through the audience. It was highly unusual for a child, even one in the first family, to speak on such an occasion. What could he possibly say? Barron approached the podium, his small hands gripping the edges. The microphone adjusted to his height, and for a moment he seemed to gather his thoughts. The tension in the air was palpable. Then, with a steady voice that carried more weight than his age suggested, he began. "Thank you," he started simply. "Today is a day of celebration, a day of change, and a day of hope, but it's also a day for reflection." The crowd leaned in closer, intrigued. Barron continued, "I know that many of you might be wondering why I'm here, speaking to you. What could a boy like me possibly say that would matter? I'm here because I believe that even the smallest voices can make a big difference." There was a pause, and in that silence, his words echoed with remarkable clarity. He went on, "My father has often told me that being a leader means listening, not just speaking. It means caring about people, even those who disagree with you. And most importantly, it means never losing sight of the future we're building together." At that moment, the room was captivated. Barron paused, glancing briefly at the audience before continuing. "Today, as I stand before you, I'm not just thinking about what this moment means for my family or even for my father. I'm thinking about all the kids watching this right now. Kids like me who may feel like their voices are too small or their dreams too far away. I want to tell you something important. You matter." A murmur of admiration rippled through the crowd. Barron's tone was steady, his confidence unwavering, and his message was strikingly clear. "You matter," he repeated, his eyes scanning the sea of faces. "Your ideas matter, your dreams matter, and your actions, no matter how small they may seem, can change the world. My dad has always told me that success isn't just about what you achieve for yourself. It's about what you do for others. That's why I believe today isn't just about one person becoming president. It's about every person in this country deciding to make a difference." The crowd was silent, hanging on to every word. It was as though the innocence of his age combined with the depth of his thoughts had pierced through the noise of the occasion. Barron continued, "I want to share something personal with you. When my dad started this journey, I didn't understand everything about what he was doing. I didn't know why he worked so hard or why he faced so much criticism. But as I watched him, I learned something important. When you believe in something, you fight for it. You don't let fear stop you. You don't let people's opinions hold you back. You stand tall and you keep going, even when it's hard." A quiet pride filled the faces of the Trump family standing nearby. Ivanka nodded subtly, and Melania's eyes shimmered with emotion. "Sometimes, we're going to feel like the odds are against us," Barron said, his voice softening. "But my dad always tells me, Barron, you don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself. And I think that's true for all of us." It doesn't matter how old you are or where you come from. What matters is that you believe you can make a difference. And then you try. The crowd erupted into applause. Barron stepped back momentarily, letting the sound wash over him. When it subsided, he leaned into the microphone once more. I want to end by saying this. My father is starting a journey as president, but he's not the only one who has a role to play. Every person here, every person watching has the power to make a difference. It starts with kindness. It starts with courage. It starts with choosing to lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. Together, we can build a future we're all proud of. With those final words, Barron stepped away from the podium, his expression calm and composed. For a moment, there was silence, and then the applause erupted again, louder and more sustained than before. Some stood to their feet, clapping and cheering, while others seemed genuinely moved, their expressions softened by the boy's heartfelt words. Barron returned to his seat beside his family, where his father leaned over to whisper something in his ear. Whatever was said, it made Barron smile. A quiet, humble smile that reflected the sincerity of his words. As Barron returned to his seat, the energy in the crowd shifted. It wasn't just the historic weight of the inauguration that people were feeling anymore. It was the unexpected depth of a young boy's message. His words seemed to have struck a chord, resonating across the political divide in a way few speeches could. Journalists scrambled to capture the moment, typing furiously into their laptops, while others whispered into their microphones. Incredible, one commentator murmured. This wasn't scripted. This was from the heart. News anchors began discussing Barron's speech in real time, marveling at how he had managed to silence a room filled with some of the most powerful people in the world. But Barron himself seemed unfazed by the attention. As the ceremony proceeded, he sat quietly, occasionally exchanging smiles with his family. Melania leaned over, placing a hand on his shoulder, her expression a mix of pride and tenderness. By the time the ceremony ended, Barron's words had already become a talking point. Social media platforms buzzed with reactions, hashtags like #Barron Trump speech and #Young Voice of Hope trending worldwide. The speech was replayed on news networks, and clips circulated online, gathering millions of views within hours. Back at the White House later that evening, as the family settled into their new home, Barron found himself at the center of attention. Advisors and staff members offered words of praise, congratulating him on his poise and message. Yet, Barron remained humble. It wasn't about me, he said simply when someone commented on how impactful his words were. I just said what I felt. President Trump chuckled, ruffling his son's hair. You did more than that, buddy. You reminded people what really matters. In the days that followed, stories began to emerge about the impact Barron's speech had on individuals. A young girl from a small town wrote a letter to the White House, sharing how Barron's words had inspired her to stand up to bullies at school. A teacher in a struggling community posted online about how she used his speech to encourage her students to believe in their potential. The story that touched Barron the most, however, came from a boy named Miguel. Miguel, a shy 12-year-old from Arizona, wrote a heartfelt email to the White House, explaining how he'd always felt invisible because of his stutter. When I heard you speak, I realized I don't have to be perfect to be heard, Miguel wrote. I just have to believe in myself. Thank you for helping me see that. Barron read the letter multiple times, his young heart swelling with a mix of responsibility and gratitude. Mom, he said, showing the letter to Melania. Do you think I can write back? Melania smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his face. Of course you can. But remember, Barron, your words carry weight. What you say can change how people feel. Inspired by the overwhelming response, Barron decided he wanted to do more. Over the next few months, he began visiting schools, hospitals, and community centers, often accompanied by his mother. His message was consistent. Kindness, belief in oneself, and the importance of small actions in creating big changes. At one such visit, a journalist asked him, Barron, you've become a symbol of hope for so many young people. How do you handle the pressure? Barron thought for a moment before answering. I don't think about it as pressure. I think about it as an opportunity. If what I say helps even one person feel stronger or more hopeful, then it's worth it. The journey was just beginning for Barron Trump. His unexpected speech at the inauguration had been the spark, but it was his continued dedication to spreading positivity and hope that turned that spark into a flame. As Barron's journey unfolded, his actions began to speak as powerfully as his words. One of the initiatives that earned him widespread recognition was a campaign he called Small Steps, Big Changes. Inspired by his father's philosophy of perseverance and his own desire to empower others, the campaign aimed to encourage young people to take small actions to make their communities better. "I'm not asking anyone to do something huge," Barron explained during an interview. "I'm asking kids like me to look around and ask, what can I do today to make someone smile, feel safe, or believe in themselves? Even little things can create ripples." Schools across the nation adopted the campaign, integrating it into their programs. Children organized food drives, planted community gardens, wrote letters to elderly neighbors, and even started anti-bullying clubs. Barron, along with Melania, would often attend these events, meeting the kids whose lives his message had touched. At one such event in Chicago, a 14-year-old girl named Tiana shared her story with Barron. "I used to think my voice didn't matter," she confessed. "But when I saw you stand up there and speak, I realized that even if I'm young, I can make a difference. I started a group at my school to help kids with anxiety because I know what that feels like." Barron's eyes lit up with genuine admiration. "That's amazing, Tiana," he said, shaking her hand. "You're proof that even one person can inspire others to be better." As inspiring as Barron's journey was, it wasn't without its challenges. With his newfound visibility came scrutiny and criticism. Some detractors questioned his sincerity, while others dismissed his efforts as mere publicity stunts. The media, as it often does, dissected his every move. Barron, however, remained unfazed. "People are going to say what they want," he told Melania one evening after reading a particularly harsh article. "But if I stop trying to help because I'm afraid of what they'll say, then I'm not really standing up for what I believe in." His resilience became a defining trait. Barron focused on his mission, using negativity as fuel to work even harder. His father, President Trump, offered him advice during these tough times. "Criticism comes with the territory," Donald said. "But remember, son, if they're talking about you, it means you're making an impact." One of the most unexpected developments in Barron's journey came when he collaborated with a boy named Amir, whose family had recently immigrated to the U.S. from Syria. Amir, a talented artist, had started drawing murals that depicted themes of unity and kindness. Barron discovered Amir's work through a teacher's social media post and immediately reached out. "Your art speaks louder than words," Barron wrote to Amir. "I'd love to work with you to spread your message further." The two met at a community event in New York, where they unveiled a mural Amir had painted with Barron's campaign slogan, "Small steps, big changes." The mural depicted children of different backgrounds holding hands, surrounded by symbols of hope, like trees, stars, and doves. Amir, initially shy, opened up as he described his artwork. "When I came here, I felt like an outsider," he said. "But I realized that kindness doesn't need words. It's something everyone can understand." The collaboration received national attention, further solidifying Barron's role as a unifying figure. By the end of his first year as America's youngest advocate, Barron was invited to speak at an international youth summit. Leaders and young changemakers from around the globe gathered to discuss pressing issues like education, climate change, and equality. As Barron stood on stage, his calm demeanor and thoughtful gaze reminded everyone of the moment he had first captured the world's attention. "The challenges we face might seem too big for us to handle," he began. "But I've learned that when we come together, anything is possible. A single voice can inspire a movement, and a single act of kindness can change someone's life." He paused, looking out at the audience. "I'm just a kid who decided to speak up. If I can do it, so can you. Don't wait for someone else to make a difference. Be the one who starts." The applause that followed was deafening. Barron Trump's unexpected speech at his father's inauguration had been the catalyst for a journey of growth, resilience, and impact. What began as a single moment of courage had blossomed into a global movement that inspired countless young people to believe in themselves and their ability to make a difference. As he grew older, Barron's influence only expanded. But through it all, he remained grounded, a testament to the power of humility and purpose. In the end, Barron didn't just shock the world that day at the inauguration. He changed it, proving that no matter how small your voice may seem, it can echo loudly enough to transform lives. As Barron's message gained momentum, he began to see his work expand beyond the borders of the United States. Letters and messages poured in from young people across the world, many of whom shared their own stories of resilience, hope, and determination. Inspired by this global outpouring, Barron decided to take his campaign to an international level. The initiative, now called Voices of the Future, aimed to connect young leaders worldwide. The mission was simple yet profound: to create a platform where children and teens could share their ideas and collaborate on solutions to common problems. At the program's launch, held at the United Nations, Barron addressed a room filled with diplomats, educators, and youth representatives. "This is more than a campaign," he said. "This is a movement. When we listen to each other, really listen, we realize that our differences are our strengths. The world isn't just ours to inherit, it's ours to shape." The initiative brought together young innovators from countries as diverse as Kenya, Brazil, India, and Iceland. They worked on projects ranging from sustainable agriculture to mental health awareness, with Barron personally mentoring some of the participants. Despite the overwhelming success of Voices of the Future, Barron faced moments of doubt. Balancing his advocacy work with his school life was no small feat, and there were times when the pressure felt insurmountable. One evening, as Barron prepared for an important speech, he found himself struggling with nerves. "What if I mess up?" he asked his mother, Melania, as she reviewed his notes with him. Melania placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Mistakes don't define you, Barron. How you learn from them does. Even the greatest leaders feel nervous. They're human, just like you." Taking her words to heart, Barron stepped onto the stage the next day and delivered one of his most heartfelt speeches. He spoke openly about his fears and challenges, earning admiration not for his perfection but for his authenticity. As the years passed, Barron's influence grew into something much larger than himself. He became a symbol of unity in a divided world. People from all walks of life, regardless of political beliefs, nationality, or background, found common ground in his message. At an event in Los Angeles, a woman approached Barron, tears in her eyes. "I never thought I'd be inspired by someone so young," she admitted. "But you've reminded me that we're all connected, and it's never too late to make a difference." Barron smiled, humbled by her words. "It's never too late," he said, "and it's never too small to matter." One of the most profound moments in Barron's journey came during a visit to a rural village in India. As part of Voices of the Future, he traveled to meet a group of young girls who had started their own literacy program. The program's founder, Anjali, just 15 years old, shared her story. "We didn't have books or a proper school," she explained, "but we had dreams, and we believed in each other. That's all it took to start." Barron listened intently, moved by her determination. "You're an inspiration," he told her. "What you've built here is incredible. It's proof that with belief and action, anything is possible." Anjali's program became one of the flagship success stories of Voices of the Future, inspiring similar efforts in other parts of the world. By the time Barron turned 18, his work had touched millions of lives. Schools and communities everywhere had adopted the principles of small steps, big changes, and Voices of the Future, creating a global network of young changemakers. Though his journey was far from over, Barron often reflected on how it all began, with one simple, heartfelt speech at his father's inauguration. "I didn't set out to become a leader," he said in an interview years later. "I just wanted to speak up for what I believed in. That's all it takes to start something meaningful. A voice, a dream, and the courage to try." As Barron's initiatives grew, he recognized a recurring theme in the stories shared by young people: Many were battling mental health challenges, often in silence. Inspired by these accounts, Barron launched a new campaign called Open Hearts, Open Minds, dedicated to breaking the stigma surrounding mental health and creating safe spaces for dialogue. "I've met so many amazing people," Barron said during the campaign's launch, "but some of them carry struggles that no one else can see. We need to let them know it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not be okay." The campaign partnered with schools, mental health professionals, and online platforms to provide resources and support. Barron personally hosted webinars where he spoke candidly about his own moments of doubt and stress, emphasizing the importance of seeking help when needed. One of the campaign's most impactful initiatives was a mentorship program where older students were trained to support their peers. These mentors became trusted confidants, bridging the gap between professional help and peer understanding. As his influence reached new heights, Barron was invited to co-chair a global peace summit alongside other young leaders. The summit brought together youth representatives from conflict zones around the world to discuss pathways to peace and reconciliation. In one memorable session, Barron sat beside a young boy from South Sudan and a girl from Israel. Despite coming from vastly different backgrounds, the two had formed an unlikely friendship during the summit. "Peace starts with understanding," Barron said during the session. "When we listen to each other's stories, we stop seeing people as enemies and start seeing them as human beings. That's the first step toward lasting change." The summit concluded with the creation of a youth peace charter, a document drafted by the participants outlining actionable steps for promoting peace in their communities. Barron's role in facilitating these discussions earned him respect not only from the participants but also from world leaders who recognized the significance of his efforts. Amid his advocacy work, Barron also faced the typical milestones of growing up. Balancing his responsibilities with school and personal life required discipline and focus. On his 16th birthday, Barron chose to spend the day quietly with his family, reflecting on the journey so far. "It's not about the attention or the awards," he told his mother that evening. "It's about the people I've met and the stories they've shared. That's what keeps me going." Melania, visibly moved, replied, "You've grown into someone who understands the power of empathy, Barron. That's a rare gift." By the time Barron was 20, his contributions had been recognized globally. He received numerous awards, including the International Humanitarian Award and a special commendation from UNESCO for his work in education and mental health. During his acceptance speech for one of these honors, Barron humbly said, "These awards don't belong to me alone. They belong to everyone who believed in the power of kindness and courage. I'm just one voice in a chorus of changemakers." As Barron transitioned into adulthood, he remained committed to his causes. He began exploring the intersection of technology and social impact, working with innovators to develop apps and tools that could further his campaign's reach. One such app, Ripple, allowed users to track the positive impact of their actions, creating a sense of accountability and motivation. In an interview, Barron shared his vision for the future. "I don't know where life will take me," he admitted, "but I know I'll keep fighting for what I believe in. Every voice matters, and as long as we remember that, we can keep building a world we're proud of." Barron Trump's journey had begun with a moment of unexpected courage and blossomed into a lifetime of purpose. His campaigns, speeches, and initiatives became a blueprint for young leaders everywhere, showing them that age was no barrier to making a difference. Years later, when asked how he wanted to be remembered, Barron simply said, "As someone who tried. That's all any of us can do. Try to make things better, one step at a time." And that's exactly what he did. Barron Trump's story became a timeless reminder of the power of youth, kindness, and conviction. His words, spoken in a moment of courage, had grown into a legacy of hope and change that inspired generations to come.